And joining us now, Tim Benega with LG Seeds, agronomist covering North Dakota and Northwest Minnesota. Tim, great to catch up with you, sir. How are you today?
Good.
Thanks for joining me, Tim. I appreciate the time. Let's talk soybeans and let's talk soybean disease. I know there's a lot of different threats out there impacting our soybean fields nationwide. I think about the Northern Plains, SDS, SCN. Those are a lot of things that are top of mind for growers. And as you look at this past growing season and we start to wrap things up here, we're thinking about next year. What stood out to you as some of the big disease threats that we saw across the Northern Plains?
This year we didn't have a lot of disease pressure. It really wasn't too bad. But going forward, I mean, we still want to watch out for them. Make sure you scout your fields, and Phytophora is probably one of the biggest ones in our area. Phytophora root rot can rob a lot of yield, so that's one we really need to watch out for. Soybean cyst nematode, it's not necessarily disease, but it's something we need to watch. It's moving further and further north and west as we're going to North Dakota. So it's out there. It's good to have your fields tested just to know where you're at. And yeah, so that's.
Well, and you mentioned soil testing, and I know that soil test. If you haven't done one, now's the time here as you wrap up harvest. Probably be smart to get out there and get that soil test done before things get too cold and you forget about it heading into the winter months, right, Tim?
Yeah, now is a great time to get it done. And even if you can get it done before you work the ground, it's even better. You get a lot better sample, but just see what you have left out there for nutrients, and yeah, do that SCN sample while you're at it, just so you know where you're at.
You mentioned Phytophora. What are some tips to try and manage Phytophora if we're seeing that in our fields? Am I looking at rotating crops? What are some things that I could do to try and minimize the impact of Phytophora?
A big thing is rotation. Rotating to a grass crop will help, but it stays in the ground for a while too. So we still have to worry about it beyond, a rotation. So you're going to want to look at varieties that have good genes. The 3A gene and the 1C gene right now are probably the best out there as far as genes in the plant. And don't look at on field tolerance too. Don't dismiss that, because that's, even if a variety doesn't, for say, have a gene, the field tolerance still may be very good.
Mhm.
So just make sure you pick a hybrid or a variety that has those attributes for Phytophora.
What about white mold? I feel like that's something as well that a lot of farmers really have to keep in mind to pay attention to in the Northern Plains.
White mold can be an issue, and it can rob a lot of yield. This year it really wasn't too bad. We didn't have the real humid and warm conditions we needed, and we didn't have huge canopies just because we got planted so late. But white mold can be an issue. There's, soybeans, you can look at them. Some of them are better than others, but trying to rely on the variety for white mold usually doesn't work. If you know you have an issue, you're going to have to use a fungicide or some other, or rotation, because just relying on a soybean usually isn't enough.
Definitely. Well, let's think about going into next year, 2023. I know a lot of farmers, as they wrap up harvest, they're making those critical decisions on seed selection and seed treatments and more as we think about next year. As you look at the LG Seeds lineup, Tim, what are some thoughts you'd have for those seed considerations for next year's growing season?
Make sure you take your own observations, know what you're looking for. If you got scouting notes, see what you need in that soybean, whether it's iron chlorosis tolerance or soybean cyst nematode. The LG Seeds lineup, we have tried to get cyst tolerance in pretty much all our varieties now, just so we don't have to worry about it. We're trying to choose varieties that have very good Phytophora, the very good genes, or at least a very good field tolerance. So just make sure that you're choosing varieties that fit your acre. It may not be the highest yielding soybean for that acre, but some of the tougher ground needs a more defensive bean.
Well, Tim, I know if producers have questions, they want to find a local retailer, a local agronomist representative, et cetera, for LG Seeds. I'm sure they could start online. LGseeds.com probably be a great place to get started to learn more information, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's a good place to start, and that'll get you connected with somebody in your area or myself, and we'll get you set up.
Definitely. Well, Tim, I appreciate the time. Any other final thoughts? Anything else that we didn't touch on you want to mention here before we run out of time today?
No, I mean, soybeans were very good this year. I'm not sure where the yield came from, but I'm very happy with them. Should mean we have pretty good supply going into the next spring. So I'm excited what next year brings.